making our way through the book. And got just as far as from a Bible study point of view, kind of slows down a little bit right here before it gets into the plagues and stuff. But there's some good stuff in here I don't think we want to miss out on, as far as setting up the rest of the book. And as I said, after verse 17, he said, "Thou shalt take this rod in thine hand, wherewith thou shalt do signs." And basically, he told Moses up to this point, he'd been real patient with him, but no more excuses, Moses. We're at that point where, I've had my patience with you, but it's time to go do what you need to go do. And I'm expediting that, Moses. And you look at verse 18. It says, "And Moses went and returned to Jethro, his father-in-law, and said unto him, Let me go, I pray thee, and return unto my brethren which are in Egypt, and see whether they be yet alive." Jethro said to Moses, "Go in peace." Notice he didn't say anything about the burning bush. He didn't mention God's job for him to go and set the people free. He just basically tells him along the borderline there of what he wants to go do. He wants to go back. And probably being a family here in this situation, why go into all the gory details of what's going to take place here, and putting him into a fret over his family, his grandkids, and all that kind of stuff. But look at verse 19. "And the Lord said unto Moses and Midian, Go, return into Egypt, for all the men are dead which sought thy life." That is very important. I think one of you, but I think it was you that mentioned that last week. That may have been on his heart, may have been on his mind when he was kind of sidestepping the Lord here a little bit. What if I go back to Egypt and they just kill me on sight? It could have been in his mind. It shouldn't have been, because God is giving him a command to do this. He was going to protect him. But we're human beings. We think of things like that. And he left there out of fear, right? I mean, he had killed an Egyptian. It was found out. The Pharaoh at the time wanted to kill him. And so he left. He went to and met there in the desert with the Midians there. So, but he says, "For all the men are dead which sought thy life." So everybody involved in that, whether it was the house of Pharaoh, Pharaoh himself, any of these that sought your life, they are dead now. And you don't have to worry about that, Moses. In verse 20, "And Moses took his wife, Zipporah, and his sons. He set them upon a donkey, and he returned to the land of Egypt. Moses took the rod of God in his hand. And the Lord said unto Moses," verse 21, "When thou goest to return into Egypt, see that thou do all those wonders before Pharaoh, which I have put in thine hand, but I will harden his heart, that he shall not let the people go." So he's going into this again, knowing that Pharaoh is not. That's important too, because this comes to a point where Moses is going to come back to God and say, "What's going on here?" But he's already told him. His heart's going to be hardened. He's not going to obey. He's not going to listen to you. But you still need to do what I'm telling you to do. And why do you think that God wants him to do this, knowing that Pharaoh's initial response is no?
Because he wants Moses and the people of Israel to know that God set them free, not Moses.
Exactly.
He wants the people to know he did.
Right. And the people of Israel, the Hebrews, they're going to have to learn to trust Moses too. And Moses is starting out with a handicap. Why? He basically hobbled himself. How did he do that? Remember?
Well, he was
I can't talk.
But if he went in there and heard the Pharaoh say, "Yeah, y'all can go," everybody would be saying Moses is wondering. They got afraid that God did.
Well, I say he hobbled himself because he made excuses. Aaron is the one that he's going to use to speak. If he had done what God told him, if Moses had done what God told him to begin with, he'd probably had an easier time of it. But like many of us, well, God, and we just start making excuses about this and about that.
I gather that he wasn't eloquent in his speech, like taking the people.
That's what he claimed.
His brother was, Silver Tongue.
A little bit. Comes back, bites him later, though. So,
But that's why he said that, that's.
exactly, yeah. He's coming up with everything he could. But, let's see. Then God tells him in verse 22, once you do this, in my heart is hard. He's not going to let the people go. It says, and thou shalt say unto Pharaoh, this is what you tell him. When he says no, thus saith the Lord, Israel is my son, meaning that this nation is my son. This group of people you've got prisoner is my son, even my firstborn. All right? Because you remember Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. His name was turned from deceiver to Israel. It's his own son, basically. It's this nation. It's his people. All right? And he says, I want you to give him this comparison. The nation that he's keeping prisoner is my son, even my firstborn. Firstborn were special everywhere. If you were firstborn in the Pharaoh's house, you were considered a god because you were the one to step into the Pharaoh's shoes. All right? And they looked to Pharaoh as one of their many gods that they worshipped. Okay? I'm starting to learn going through this things about Egyptians and their early life that I didn't know, because the one thing about, just to back up a second, when Moses found as he's called, I guess his father was called the Jethro, the priest of Midian. They didn't believe like the Hebrews, but they believed in one God, monotheistic, okay, one God. So at least they believed that. We're going to find the difference here in just a second. But they believed in one God. The Egyptians believed in many various gods and demons and sorceries, and they worshipped all of them. Okay? There was a lot of, basically, if you don't put your trust in God, who are you worshiping? The devil. That's what they worshipped. Now, they wouldn't tell you that, but that's what they worshipped. All these different idols that they worshipped. And God in His Word speaks that those idols would be wiped out. Today, in Egypt, they're Muslim, which forbids the idol worship. Now, I didn't say they were worshiping God the way we worship God, but they're Muslim. All those idols have been washed away down the trench, down the Nile River. They're gone. All right. And so when God speaks, He means it, and it will happen. Back to this though. That's just some extra stuff. But He says, verse 23, and I say unto thee, let my son go. Talking about Israel here. Let the Hebrews go, that he may serve me